This is the Seller Process Podcast, where we talk about the best systems, processes, and SOPs for your Amazon business so that you can regain control of your time, build up your team, and scale your e-com empire.
Hello, entrepreneurs. If you are looking for ways to get new eyeballs and new clicks to your Amazon listings using a simple method that can drive thousands of new customers to your products totally free of charge, then this episode is for you. Our guest today will share how we can leverage the power of Pinterest to create more brand awareness, generate more clicks, and close more sales. We're joined today by Matt Parker. He's been in the e-commerce space for over 15 years, and he is now the director of 2 global brands offering 400,000 ASINs running on a hybrid human AI-based system spanning across 6 e-commerce platforms. He's also the co-founder of Pinformative, a Pinterest-based e-learning portal and agency dedicated to scaling brands from a multitude of marketplaces, including Amazon, eBay, and Etsy. Hey, Matt, I'm excited for you to be here. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be speaking to you because I'm a big believer in processes and SOPs and structure and autonomy. So for me, this should be a great chat. I hope you can give me some challenging questions and I'll try to answer them as best as I can.
Yeah, for sure. So that's great. All our guests here are big on SOPs and systems and processes. So now, as most people that listen to the Seller Process Podcast know is that every time we share a system, a process, and then we describe the steps of that system. And this time we're going to share a system on how we can basically bring our Amazon listings to Pinterest and engage with Pinterest, the Pinterest audience, basically, and create more brand awareness in there. So, as usual, guys, you will be able to download the complementary material that we have together with this episode. In this case, it's going to be a flowchart explaining all this process that we're going through today in the show notes at thesellerprocess.com. So let's get started, Matt. And so the first thing I would like to understand is because people are not really familiar, most people are not very familiar with Pinterest. So I'd like to start and break the ice to understand what's your opinion on what Amazon sellers can expect from building an account on Pinterest. What's your take on that?
Okay, so predominantly I'll come from an organic point of view because obviously that's where the free traffic is and that's what people want to hear. So I think it's very important to establish that I'm not going to speak about the advertising route. I'm going to speak about the organic free traffic route. And that's the whole point, free traffic is exactly what it is. And I think the important thing that specifically Amazon sellers need to understand is that you're not just hitting up Amazon marketplace on Pinterest, and you're not just hitting a Pinterest audience. Pinterest is the ultimate middle flow. So you've got Etsy buyers, you've got YouTube redirect buyers, you've got social media buyers, all marketplace buyers. So from an Amazon point of view, you could actually redirect new customers that don't exist in your marketplace on the flow. So what you could expect from Pinterest, I say this to anybody in any marketplace, is possibly a buyer that isn't even looking on Amazon in the first place because it's been redirected through the middle flow known as Pinterest. So that's what you can expect, a different potential audience that you've never seen. And who doesn't want free traffic and buyers that aren't even looking? It's kind of in their interest, and that's why I'm on Pinterest. So
yeah, for sure. That's a very interesting platform, actually, because I've read lots of statistics about Pinterest, and the audience in Pinterest seems to be really quite similar to the ones that most people are targeting. Maybe rich women in a way. Like women that wants to spend.
You said that, not me.
That was
right.
actually like something very
no, you're
my understanding of those statistics, but in a way it's like that, like young or middle-aged women that have a higher household income. That's said in with better words.
I mean, I can't remember the exact figure now, but you are right. The majority of the audience globally is actually millennial young professional women and partners as well. But predominantly, it's between 75 and 80% demographically a female-driven audience, and it's millennial ladies, women who are young professionals who seem to buy a lot on Pinterest. So you're absolutely spot on with that.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds great. All right. So.
But yeah, it's a market that. Sorry.
Sorry, maybe there's a little bit lag here. Sorry,
no
I interrupted you. So I wanted to get to the the core of this process that we're going to talk about. So let's start with that. So how do we create our first pins? On Pinterest we create pins, not posts. So maybe you can also clarify that to people who are not familiar.
Sure. I mean, I would say try not to get confused between a pin and a post. If you'd like to look at it as a post, I think that I always say that's a good thing, because in theory, a pin, a post, a listing, they all have the same output. You put them on a marketplace and they exist. So it's kind of like a pin is an advert in one respect, or it's a listing. It's kind of an in-between, an in-betweener with a pin. The thing that I would say is that to start off with, and I know that you're going to provide some material on this with the SOP that we've supplied, which is brilliant. I think it will back this up, but you need to make sure that you have a Pinterest account open. But that's a very simple process. It's a lot easier. There's not as much legislation as Amazon, and obviously you need to have a business account with Amazon. So it's kind of like you need a business account for both of you going to pin. That's the first simple stage to go through. Do you want me to move on from there? I would progress it.
Yeah, great. On? Yeah, for sure. Move on. Yeah, feel free to let us know all the steps of this process that you're talking about.
I mean, when you go through it, it's quite a simple process. But when you tell people, the first response is, I can't believe that the social media button is below the buy box, because you just miss it, But if you don't know what it is, you don't understand that process. And that's why we're speaking about this. So you'll notice underneath the buy box, there are your social buttons, and the P is there for Pinterest. I would advise that people use this process and don't use a pinning process manually on Pinterest, because there's a link there on the API. So it's very important that this process is utilized and used. So what you do is you log into your Pinterest account and your Amazon account before you do anything. That's very important, because you have to connect to each other. And then what you do is you bring up the listing, or your listing, that you'd like to put across to Pinterest. Once you've done that, once you've got it up and it's live, the URL at the top, etc., click on the Pinterest P button, and it will open up a new browser window, linking up to Pinterest, and it will basically give you the option to pin the item across to Pinterest. Once you're there, you can select a board, or if you don't have a board currently, you could create a new board, which I think we'll speak about in more detail in a bit from what I've seen. But yeah, you create a new board and you pin to that board. And once that's pinned to, that sounds simple, but that's the overview of how you do it basically. So.
Okay, that's great. Actually, one of the things that most people get surprised, like you mentioned, is that there are social buttons in the Amazon listing. Most people didn't notice, or maybe they did see those buttons but never used it. So guys, let's use it. I think what
it is so many people are obsessed with winning the buy box, they forget what's underneath.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. So guys, just direct your eyes just 1 inch lower than the buy box, and you will find those social media sharing buttons. And so we're talking about that. Click on the Pinterest button, and then you'll be able to pin it right away. So that's the first step. So obviously we start from there, and then pin those listings into our boards. And that's what leads me to my next question, is that what are your suggestions to create these boards? So basically boards are some kind of aggregators, like folders into Pinterest, right? So what are your suggestions to create these folders in Pinterest, and how many we should create?
Okay, so my first piece of advice with that would be take it easy. Don't go crazy creating huge title boards. Just remember that these are a broad term but niche-driven market. So what I would suggest, and also what I would like to point out, is these are highly, so your boards actually have more prominence on Google than your pins. So I always suggest to people, think very carefully about how you not only promote them on Pinterest and the keywords that you use, but use keywords that you would search for on Google as well. Because you're attacking it from two markets with this, and that's where you can open up some really interesting things in regards to bringing in people from Google for your associative Amazon listings, because you could use different keywords that are relevant in a broader scope. So my advice is start with 6 to 10 boards. That's my advice if you can. It's just a good figure, not too many, not too little. You can have up to, I believe, 2,000 boards, which, you could go crazy. You could pin to millions of boards, but I always say, keep it simple. You'll be able to see traction like any other marketplace. Don't go too broad, don't go too big at first so you can understand the demographics. And yeah, that's it. So keyword wise, I would say, for example, if you're selling something in a niche in kitchenware, maybe put kitchen appliances, kitchen utensils, but don't put the specific item. Don't put, for example, kitchen XYZ handle holders, because you're kind of narrowing down your scope on the board and the search term on Google as well. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, I see. So basically the boards will, if people will look for that keyword, they will be redirected to the main board, it's not the pin that gets seen in the search results, but the boards.
The pins do get seen in the search results of Pinterest, but the boards are the ones, if you imagine on a global level from the outside in, the boards are the ones that have more scope across the whole of e-commerce. And I like to see things on a bit of a broader scope of pulling in more traffic from other areas such as YouTube, etc., going through a URL. So yeah, if coming from Google, they're not interested in the pins, they're more interested in the boards. So that's why I always say, if you want to put a keyword on your title of your pin, for example, then yeah, you go into detail, because that's what predominantly people are searching for on the Pinterest SEO. But when it comes to boards, I would say think bigger, because it's almost like you've got your filing system on your computer. You call your target file the actual specific name, but with the folder, it's kind of like, think about how people would search for that specific topic, for example, or in this term, it's the interest. It's the warm audience with the interest. So.
Okay, I see. That's interesting. So in order to name our boards properly, we should probably use any tool that we're familiar with when searching for keywords on Google,
yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you could go down the routes of, I'll mention Helium 10 and other companies to look at keywords, but I would say, try and have a broader scope. I always suggest to people, think about looking inside the house and outside of the house. So think about, you've got herbs, a few of these different tools outside, which would be useful for your boards if you wanted to do research. My advice to anybody on entry point on Pinterest is do your keyword research, not just what you would buy, but what's outside in Google. So maybe get a Google keyword search tool, have a look at that, and do both of them at the same time, because all you need to do is have them open and just check and see what's ranking best in both markets, and you're hitting two markets at once, really.
Okay, that's great. Very interesting. And actually, one of the power, let's say, of Pinterest is that these pins are kind of like a blog. They stay up there forever, basically. So they give you like ranking juice potentially forever, or people, might stumble upon your pin of like a year ago, and they can maybe make a sale now. Like, so it's something very interesting. Has the power, for long term, right? Okay, so that's interesting. And another thing I was curious to ask is that, as you said, in For Amazon, we know tools like Helium 10, or for Google, there are several other tools like Keywords Everywhere, for example, the one I use for finding keywords on Google. So that's helpful for ranking our Amazon listings and our boards. Do you use any specific tool for Pinterest, particularly for finding keywords, or should we find, with the other tools?
It's perfect question, and one that I've looked at for a long time, and one that obviously I'm doing a course, etc., outside of here, and it's one specific, very simple way of doing it. If you look at Pinterest, it's very much like the hybrid in between the demographics of, say, for example, Facebook and the keywords of Amazon. So you've got this whole demographical audience of interest. So I always suggest, and it's a very simple thing, and people say, really, is that the best way? And I'm like, yeah, it is. If you just go to the search bar at the top to find the interests that are popping up on trend, then you'll suddenly get the associative keywords that are probably trending for interests. Now, interests are a very warm audience because they're already pre-bought. They're interested already. So I always say, very simple process, go to the top, have a look, type in. So for example, if you're bodybuilding, for example, and you want to do bodybuilding nutrients, type in bodybuilding and have a look and see what comes up first within the search index of Pinterest on interests that are trending, because that's what comes up at the top. And then type in nutrients and see what comes up next. So that will give you an indicator for free, no need to buy all these intricate tools, of what potentially demographically is working with people's interests. So as well as going back, and I know I'm going back to what we just spoke about, you've got the external tools with Google, you've got the internal tools of possibly looking at what's products that are trending on your Amazon account, for example, and what you think will trend on Pinterest. You can also use this very simple technique, and I think it helps you to target on people's interests and use them in your keywords of your pins as well.
Okay, that's great. You see, actually, the beauty of Pinterest is that there are lots of possibilities and they're all for free. So that's really a platform. Yeah, very interesting to use. Actually, it just came up to my mind one method that I can add to what you just mentioned. When I started to play around with Pinterest, after a while, I got contacted by like an ads manager in Pinterest, because I think they're big for sure, but not as big as Facebook and Instagram. So they actually do care about you. So they have lots of managers.
I know what you mean. Yeah. It makes sense. Yeah, they do. They have a really good team. If you set up an account, obviously from a business angle, the only thing I would say is the support isn't quite as advanced as some of the marketplaces. But when it comes to actually engaging on the platform, it's relatively fresh in the way that they're approaching this. So you will get approached by a sales manager potentially saying, "How can I help you? What's fluctuating in your organics?" If you go down the route of ads application, maybe they'll help you out with that. But yeah, you're completely right. That is quite a common technique from Pinterest, which is great. I mean, I never got that years going back with eBay or Amazon or any other market. I wouldn't get a call apart from saying, are you interested in this new functionality that we've got? Or, we're bringing out a new feature. Whereas what they do, Pinterest, they'll ring you up and they'll say, hey, we're here to help you on your account and see how you can cross convert. Because I think one thing I would point out is that Pinterest, some people see Pinterest as a misconcepted competitor to another marketplace. They're not a marketplace, they're a middle funnel. So they are the ultimate marketing tool for any marketplace with freedom of terms of service. So where you've got you've got your products on Amazon or eBay and you're not allowed to, for example, put a service on there, it's the opposite with Pinterest, in that you could have, for example, a hairdressing company with the top 10 tips of how to cut somebody's hair, and then have at the bottom a link to your product. So there's not many other markets you can do that with without breaking terms of service, which is interesting. Again, it's another free way, a creative way of marketing, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I totally agree. It's a great tool for marketers that wants to get the eyes or the interests of people in the top or in the mid of the funnel, basically, when they are starting to be aware of their purchase, or they are already looking for ideas. They go to Pinterest to look for those ideas.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Cool. All right. So let's move on then to the second phase of our process, right? So we with this simple first phase, we just pin the listings to our boards. And now what? How can we drive more engagement with people?
Okay, so the first, I'll refer to what I've been through with the amount of processes that can be implemented, and it's quite vast. So what I've tried to do with yourself, with that, with the Repin engagement, is give you a process that I believe would really help people with simplicity to engage people across the whole algorithm. Now, the problem is with being you can't pre-plan being a pioneer, and the problem is we're at the forefront of trying to justify and control and basically create these SOPs, and we've done them in different ways. But the one that I've put forwards is the Repin engagement SOP. So what you do, obviously, you create your pin, etc. But then you want to create velocity on the algorithm of Pinterest, on the organic algorithm of Pinterest. So the best way to do that, or one of the most simplest ways to do that, I believe putting forwards for the Amazon community, is once you've got a pin from Amazon, the only thing is different markets have different functionality when they come to Pinterest in what you can and can't change. So because there's a connection to Amazon, you can't really change the title. You've got your hero image, you've got your description. It's basically a funnel through to Pinterest, through to Amazon. So the perfect way to gauge more traction around your Amazon pin or post listing is to create affiliated or associative pins that have got high velocity and traction with them as well in the boards. So it's like being in a room full of popular people. The more you can get in a room with more popular people, the more traction you're going to have to speak to people and tell them what you do and sell your item. And that's why I believe that repinning is really important. So what you do, you've got your item pinned, and then what happens is you repin the item to an associative interest, associative board. So say, for example, going back to the kitchenware, there's a board maybe that's really highly ranking, and they endorse this Pinterest. They endorse you to share. That's the whole point. So if you can get your exposure out there by repinning, which means basically getting hold of your pin and putting it on another board, if that board is viewed and your pin is there, then you're increasing your traffic flow. It's as simple as that. So, and especially if they start putting ads on associative pins, or some of their pins go viral and you're in their board, it's kind of a knock-on effect that you can have both on the algorithm and people potentially buying your item. So that's why I believe that the repin strategy is very important, especially for the Amazon community. So I think that what I recommend going into reference of the structure that I put across in the diagram is that you go onto the pin once a day. It takes minutes, literally minutes. And maybe while you're walking around, have a think, oh yeah, maybe I could put that in an interest of kitchen furniture instead of kitchen wardrobes, for example. And there's a board there. Pin it to the board. Takes you a minute, and just do that gradually. There's no hardship, and people go, it takes such a long time. It literally takes a minute. All you've got to do is have a think about what associative keywords potentially you think you could share to, and you just repin one a day. Now, the reason I've said one a day is because you can get something happen called shadowing, which in theory is like it's like the sin bin. They say deactivation. It's a very critical word. That it's, you don't need to be I would say don't be as scared as markets like Amazon if you get deactivated. It's nothing like that. It's very easy to instigate again because they have a lot of spam filters. So what I recommend is one a day, because if you start spamming the system by repin, it's obviously, common sense tells you if you keep repinning too many times, the system goes, whoa, are you a bot? Is there a problem here? Are you doing this en masse? So that's why I recommend once a day from experience, from what I've seen, because you gauge more traction on that one hit every day. Yes, it takes time, but like you just said previously, it's an evergreen, immortal traffic engine. So whatever you do, it's not going to damage anything. You're just creating more and more flow. And I always say, imagine a tree and you're letting the tree grow. If you want to put PPC on it, do it, but don't water the tree too much so that it suffocates. Take your time. And it's a very long game, Pinterest. It really is. It's a very long-term, long-tail keyword, based platform, as you'll probably know. So yeah, repin. And the other thing I think I've suggested on the diagram is that you don't only repin, but you can create more boards. So you could create more boards to repin to yourself. So if you think there should be a term that's popular, again, I know it's going off tangent, but you've got your Google keywords. So you could create a board that you think this is going to really trend, because I can see a trend coming. Just remember the keywords in your boards can trend your pins as well. So create a board that you think is going to trend, put your pin and repin it in there. And basically a repin is just putting your feelers out, putting your viewing out into different boards and saying, hey, here I am, click on me, you can buy me, and I think it's a really simple but effective strategy, the Repin engagement strategy. I really do.
Okay, great. So I'm interested to dig deeper in that and to see if I understood well. So when you're saying you repin the existing pins, will you do it in another board of your saying that you created, or you can also repin that into other people boards? Because obviously your boards are not that famous, right? So you don't run the risk to get viral with your boards, right?
Precisely. And that's why I say do both, because, if you're going to build your own boards up and they gain velocity, yes, you've got to start somewhere. But if you have a product that's maybe has got a long niche trend on Amazon, I think it's very important that you consider you just open a board. It takes 2 seconds when you just type it in, create your board, put the pin on there. And what you'll find is potentially people will join your board. And then obviously, like you said, you've got that side of it. And then you've got the affiliated boards, people that you pin to and repin your item to their boards. And like I say, a lot of the one thing that I've had an issue with people, especially the Amazon communities, they don't understand why that's allowed, because it's kind of like that breaks terms of service on Amazon. You can't share people's listings across other people's listings. No, Pinterest is a sharing engine. That's the whole point. And they're very good at picking up things that if it's not a high quality image, if it's breaking terms of service in the way that it's the same thing that's been spammed, and maybe it's a very, very intricate and intelligent image-based engine. So it understands all those kind of things, which makes it fun. It makes it fun because, again, you've got 2 angles, and you're absolutely right. Those are the 2 angles. Take either that you want. But the most, I would say, if you're going to start on one, the obvious one, which you'll probably agree, is repin your pin to people who have high traction already. Repin to their boards, which have got associative pins that have already got high velocity or even viral. Do your research, just have a look at it and repin to that. So yeah, it's a good point. That very good point.
Okay. So great. So we should definitely, take advantage of other people boards, so that we can increase our the visibility of our pins. So yes. You're mentioning the let's say the formula should be like 1 pin per day and 1 repin per day, or can we have like 1 pin for each of our products per day and 1 repin? But that way, our board will.
Sorry, I apologize. Maybe. Sorry, I was going to say. Sorry, it's a bit of a lag there.
Go ahead.
Say, no, that's a good question. Maybe I need to clarify that better, and I've maybe not. But so you can create as many. The algorithm of Pinterest loves new content, fresh content that doesn't exist, and it picks up on that. So. If you create multiple pins in a day, that's no problem. You can create as many new pins as you want in a day, and you can repin any of those in a day. What I mean is that if you've got, for example, 30 individual pins that are all different products, just repin those once, not twice in a day. So, for example, you could do 30 repins if you've got 30 products. You do 50 if you've got 50 products, but don't do 100 and do 2 of each, if that makes sense. Maybe I should have clarified that on the SOP better, but. I'm not very good with linear SOPs. I don't know why. Maybe I've got a backwards brain, but
okay, no, it's okay. It's okay. Now it's more clear. So, and I'm interested then to know, like, other this method to repin to other boards. Do you have any tips to increase the conversion of our pins, or make them more effective?
I have one tip, and it's a very strange one, but I'll say this, and it's not for everybody, but it is a big converter. So if you've got, and this is for people who are on Amazon who have any YouTube channel at all, this is a tip that nobody knows. This is something I'll drop. If you've got a YouTube channel, you can claim that Pinterest has strong affiliation with Google and with YouTube, because obviously YouTube and Google have strong links. So if you claim your YouTube channel and you pin a a video pin, which is just a 12-second video, as we, like TikTok, Snapchat, and you pin that to the board that's associated with your Amazon listing, YouTube videos on a video pin has huge juice on the algorithm and will push everything up. So that's a big tip that I recommend anybody that's got a YouTube channel. So number one, claim it with Pinterest, which is very simple. You just go to the claim option on your Pinterest settings, claim your video, claim your YouTube channel, which takes no time at all. Once you've claimed that, just put a 12-second video pin across, and you'll find that the engagement on your board will throw things up, especially if you've got an affiliated item. And if you've got a link through to your item on YouTube as well, to your Amazon listing, that's another thing where it's called a two-flow. So you could get more juice on it that way as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great tip, and for sure, I mean, we can use it as an additional weapon in our social media marketing strategy. And a YouTube channel, it's something that you can open very easily, and we can, for example, use it for posting the video product or anything produced by any influencer. Exactly. For example, might be a good place. And then we leverage those videos not only on Amazon but also on Pinterest, because as you said, it will give more visibility to the product. So it all ties together. So that's the important thing in our strategy. Before we close, tell us like one quick common mistake that people make in Pinterest marketing.
A very big mistake on Pinterest that people do, and it's not something that you would think, oh, that's very bad, but it does take it very seriously, the algorithm, is repinning an item with the same image. It's a very common mistake to happen, and it's very easily done, especially using schedule software that may miss the actual pin. You can get deactivated. I'd say don't worry, chill out, be calm. It can happen. The algorithm, the spam filters will pick up your duplicate listing and may deactivate your account. It's nothing that isn't sortable. That isn't sorted within a 12-hour period. What I would say is just be very careful, because it loves fresh content, not to duplicate any images, because it's specifically the images that people go wrong with, and I've seen it many times. So that's some advice I give.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. So we got a value-packed episode today. So thank you again for coming here. How can people find you, and what can you help them if they would like to get your help with their Pinterest strategy?
I've not even practiced this. I didn't know you were going to ask it. Out of everything, I forgot. So I'm part of a group with Marie O'Shea and Daniel Razza. We are called Pinformative Group, and we help sellers scale through the power of Pinterest on different multitude of platforms. If you go to Facebook, we've got a group called Pinformative. We give out free tips. There's media on there as well, videos. So you can get quite a bit of value from that for free. We do have a course, which is on our e-learning portal on our website, which is paid, but at the moment I think it's $59 for 40 videos, which I think's, we're getting there. And we're an agency as well. So we're boarding 7-figure clients upwards, which is obviously not for everybody. So I'd say if you want free tips and tricks, just nip onto Facebook and you can get quite a bit from the media section on Facebook.
Awesome. Great. Great. Yeah. No thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. So guys, remember, the key to success is to emulate the best. So take action on the tips that Matt just shared, and go start your Pinterest adventure with this easy method that Matt just shared with us. And remember that you can find the flowchart from Pinformative in our website, or in the description in the video on YouTube. The website is thesellerprocess.com. You can find this episode and click on the download button in the show notes, and you will find the flowchart. Thank you again, Matt, for coming here. I hope to see you again in another episode.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Hey entrepreneurs, I hope you enjoyed the episode and learned something from the interview. If you're serious about creating systems for your business, automating processes and building up your team so that you can transfer the tedious daily tasks in order to focus on more high-level strategic tasks and work on your business and not in your business, I've created a guide for Amazon sellers named Capturing Systems and Creating SOPs that you can find at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook, where you will learn how to leverage systems and SOPs in your Amazon business so that you can accomplish more by working less, optimize your time, automate and delegate tasks, and reap the benefits of being a true business owner and not simply an operator in your own business. Go download the ebook at thesellerprocess.com/systems ebook and start implementing all the tips and insights that I share with you. And leave us a review or a comment to let us know how the content we are sharing here is making an impact in your business. And have a productive week.